Welcome back to the Running Explained podcast. I'm your host, Coach Elisabeth. My goal as a run coach is to help you become a better, smarter, faster runner and help you achieve those goals that you are chasing and feel amazing while you're doing it. Whether that's working one-on-one with a run coach on the Running Explained coaching team, following a downloadable training plan, or joining group coaching in the Run Club app, there is something for every runner and every goal. This week, we have a very special episode. We are going to meet some of the Running Explained run coaches and have a chat about coaching. You've met a couple of them already. You've met Nick, you've met Amanda, you've met Jesse. They've all been in the show before, but we have a couple new coaches who've joined the team and some coaches who you haven't even met yet through the podcast. So I'm very excited about this conversation. We wanted to really give a peek behind the curtain about what run coaching is. There's a ton of misconceptions, kind of misunderstanding about coaching and the process and what it is and what it isn't and who can benefit and who might not benefit. And so I really just wanted to take this time to help you get to know our coaches a little bit better, but also understand like the run coaching process just a little bit more. And of course, if you are interested in working with any of our coaches one-on-one, or you want to learn more about group coaching, or you want to learn about my downloadable training plans, you can find all of that on my website, runningexplained.com. And if you do want to get started with one-on-one run coaching, that's a that's a mouthful. You can visit runningexplained.com/run coaching and we'll get started. Hello and welcome back to the Running Explained podcast. I am so excited today to be joined by 5 of the Running Explained coaches, Amanda, Mick, Nick, Andrew, and Jesse. And today we are going to be picking their brains, getting to know them, and talking about run coaching. There are so many questions about run coaching, how to become a coach, why even to work with a coach, what run coaching is or isn't. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and talk about coaching and meet some of the coaches. So hello, everyone. You can all talk at once. You can go say hi.
Hi.
And don't worry, we'll be going through individual introductions. You may have met some of these coaches on the show before, but I know that a couple of them may also be new to you. So let's go around. We're going to have you briefly introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself. And we're going to start with Coach Andrew. You're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Coach Andrew. I am based in Washington, D.C. I started running my freshman year of high school when I tried out for the cross-country team and have been hooked now for 18 years. I competed at the collegiate level and took up road racing after that and have been a coach with Running Explained for actually just over 2 years now.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Coach Amanda, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Coach Amanda. I think my timeline is shortly thereafter Andrew's on the Running Explained coaching team. I'm based out of New York City. I am a full-time personal trainer, run coach, and group fitness instructor for a brand called Equinox. I do some on-set trainer work for the New York Times and work on programming. So fitness and running is my whole life, but it has not been a part of my whole life. I am a late blooming runner, and I didn't start running until my late 20s. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, another late bloomer. Thank you, Amanda. I'm very excited to see every time I see your little behind the scenes New York Times stuff. I'm like, what? I know a celebrity. She's in the New York Times.
Opposite.
Coach Jesse. Hello. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Coach Jesse. I live in Michigan and I started running when I was 20 for something to do to stay active while in college. And from there, like once I graduated, I found a reason to visit friends that moved away, which started my 50 states journey to run a marathon in all 50 states. So yeah, and I started coaching over 2 years ago. So yeah, just being involved and running. I'm also a mom of 2 kids and an engineer working full time as well.
And all Jesse, you're right. If anybody wants to hear more about Jesse's story about running a marathon in all 50 states, we talked about that on the podcast. Was it early last year? And you're now more than halfway there, right?
Yes, I hit halfway this past year.
So many marathons. Coach Mick, please introduce yourself.
Hey, yeah, I'm Coach Mick. I'm based in the New England area. I would say I've been kind of a lifelong runner in some way, shape, or form. I ran my first marathon in 2019 for charity at Chicago. Didn't take a single gel. Have grown a lot since then. Picked running back up in the pandemic. Got really burnt out in 2022. Beat that burnout, and that really kind of solidified wanting to, get my run coach certification and, help other people in their running journey. And I just actually recently joined the Running Explained team. So really excited for this.
Our newest member. We're excited to have you here.
Thanks.
And last but not least, Coach Nick.
Hey everybody, Coach Nick. I'm on all 5 seasons now, Elisabeth. I've made it. I am just north of Baltimore. I live in Maryland. I am co-host of the Between the Two Coaches podcast with Amanda. I started running my freshman year of high school, took it into college, took a long hiatus after I burned out in college, took it back up as an adult, and around 2019, I started coaching, and I've been coaching about 5 years. Been with Running Explained 3 or 4 months now, and just excited to be here.
And we are missing a couple other coaches, but I have to admit, I think 9 guests on one show may be unwieldy. So this feels like a nice size. All right. So like I said, we're doing some new things now that I have 3 quick questions that I want to ask you before we dive into our conversation. And so I'm going to ask the first question. We'll go around and I want to know what your answer would be. And this is not like a rapid fire, like one sentence, but it is, just like say the thing that really comes to your head first. And my first quick question is, if you could have an all expenses paid guaranteed entry trip to any race in the entire world, what race would you choose? And I will give you a minute to think while I vamp and talk. And then I'm going to call on Jessie. What would you choose?
I would really like to do London Marathon. Go over there. I think that'd be good sightseeing and check that off the majors list.
And that guaranteed entry would be nice because it's really hard to get into London. Andrew, what's your race of choice?
I think I would say the Comrades race in South Africa. I think it's really hard to get into, and it's like such a legendary race, but like it's a little bit overshadowed by the majors. And it's like it's a road ultra marathon.
I was going to say it's an ultra.
Yeah.
It's like a weird distance, and they run it in opposite years. One year they go north, and the next year they run it south. Right? Awesome choice. I love it. Mick, what race would you choose?
This is, I feel like, kind of unhinged, but if it's going to be all expenses paid, I'm for sure doing the 7 marathons, 7 continents, like 7 days. Like, I'm going all in. Like, we're doing it.
If you run them back to back, it counts as 1 marathon. So
for sure,
pay for all of it.
Yeah, and with the time changes, like it's pretty much in one day, probably. I don't know.
Bonk. That 7 marathons in 7 days thing is like another level. I can't.
Yeah.
I get jet lagged really easily, so maybe it's not a race for me. Amanda, what is your race of choice?
I'm very conflicted because I don't really want maybe somewhere that's expensive but has a very small course, like 15 people or something, so that I don't have to be a part of like a major marathon field, because it gives me a lot of anxiety despite being a New Yorker, I really don't like major marathons. Most people who listen to me know that. But if the field was small, something like Valencia, something like in a beautiful place and maybe I will do it. A beautiful place that the course isn't, ridiculous in terms of elevation gain or what have you. That's a good answer, right? Is that I got the validation from Andrew's hands. Okay. Yes. His head shaking was all I needed. All right. That's it. That's where I'd go.
And Nick, what about you?
No brainer. I want to do Sydney Marathon. So I'm manifesting this because I want to do it this year and I want to find a charity or something. So this is going to pay for it by saying this right now out loud. So I can't wait for this to happen now. Thanks.
Work on your vision board, front and center, Sydney Marathon. All right, second question. What's everybody fueling with these days? What is your favorite gel or run fuel? And I'm going to start with somebody new this time, and it's going to be Mick.
Okay, I'm alternating between like three. I do the SIS beta fuel ones, and then I do the Amex, AMACX is how you, I don't really know how to, it's like your Amex credit card, but a gel. I don't know. Those I alternate between those. It's like 40 grams of carbs and 30 grams of carbs, so you're solid at 70 grams, per hour if you just take the two, which I think is great. And then I've been doing the crank like drink mix in my bottles, so it's a pretty good combo right now.
I've not heard of Amex gels. Has anybody
Yeah,
else
check
heard of
them
it?
out
Yeah.
on the feed.
Amanda's the
I have
fueling
to
queen.
say-
Of course she knows it.
Yeah. It's a thinner consistency. It's like a drink gel. I like it too.
It's very liquid. It's maybe just like a little bit thicker than just like a drink mix, but it's very easy to go down. I would highly recommend not the raspberry. I did not like that one at all, but the citrus and the orange are very, very good.
All right. And Amanda, what are you fueling with these days?
3 products. Crank Sports is Crank Sports and SIS Beta, also a higher carb gel option, one with electrolytes, which we love. And then I'm putting in my handheld, which is new for me, BPN G1M Sport, which is a carbohydrate and also electrolyte mix. Love all 3, getting between 70 and 80 grams of carbs per hour.
Oh, love this fueling talk. Nick, what are you fueling with these days?
I am fueling with the same things everyone else is saying, but I also like precision fuel is a big one I like to mix in. So I'll use SIS, Crank Sports, Precision Fuel, Morton. Those are like the ones I'll rotate in on a run.
All these high carb options. Jesse, what's in your gel belt these days?
So I'm confident using the SIS and the SIS beta. So that line, I use those. I feel like I still have GI issues, so I'm still dabbling, but I still like Huma Plus. I like using those, and I've been experimenting with the e-gel cranks. I think I need to figure out timing and hydrating with those. Still, I like them, but I'm very confident the SIS ones are working well.
Yeah, I don't think the crank ones are isotonic. You do need to take
Yeah,
fluids with it.
definitely.
Yeah. Andrew, what are you fueling with these days?
Yeah, I recently tried the crank gels as well, and they were very, very good. I like the caffeinated ones specifically, but I've been rotating between those and Morton on my runs.
Excellent. All right, third question. What is your all-time holy grail pair of running shoes? Like the best shoes you've ever worn, you would give a limb to run one more race or workout in those shoes. Not an important limb, like an unimportant limb. I see you, Amanda.
We only have 4, so at max.
Choose wisely. All right. Who is my resident shoe nerd? Well, Nick, do you have some thoughts?
I am boring. My favorite all-time shoe is the Brooks Ghosts, and so I will just go with those. I just wear them for easy runs. I've been wearing them for 7 years as my easy run shoe, so it's my go-to.
I love it. Jesse, what about you? Nice. I haven't tried those yet. How many races have you done in them?
I've done a couple marathons in them now and a half, so they still feel good.
Multiple marathon tested is key. Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I had a racing flat for indoor track because we couldn't wear spikes on our indoor track because it was basically running like on a hardwood floor. But they were called like the Brooks ST Racers, and they were really like at that time like they were long distance racing shoe, even though there was like nothing to them. But those shoes were incredible.
Do you think racing flats are going to come back, or do you think we're just all steam ahead on 85-foot high, very light foam stack shoes?
I
See those new Pumas? They're like a springboard, like shoe.
What's crazy is when you look at like some of like the American men's half marathon record just got broken after like all these years, but like it was originally set in like shoes that like I don't know how like thinking back on it like Ryan Hall's like feet held together because he was pretty much just like running on pavement. So I don't think they're coming back, but
Amazing. Yeah. I don't know how he did it either. Maybe that's why it took so long to break. All right, Nick, what is your magic shoe of choice?
I like religiously purchase the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 now off of Amazon because they just have random stock left. So I'm very stuck in the past on those, but they're still available. But if I had to pick one that I really can't find anymore, it would probably be the Endorphin Pro B. I love that shoe. I know it's only a couple years old at this point, but I've done a lot of racing in that shoe, and I just feel like it's the best.
That's a fun shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And Amanda,
I have a lot of shoes, and
Desert Island shoe, the shoe. Pick one.
the only shoe for me right now is, I'm also boring like Nick. The Brooks Glycerin Max is
I love
my
that shoe.
is in my multi-shoe rotation.
Oh, I love all these answers. You guys are killing it. All right, let's dive in. We're going to talk about coaching. And the first thing I want to know, because this is always interesting to me, is when did you or like why did you decide to get into coaching? It's relatively easy to become a certified run coach and a lot of people do, but they don't really do anything with it. So, I want to know why coaching was really appealing to you and why this is something that you really wanted to pursue. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with Andrew. Talk about why you became a coach.
Yeah, well, for me it kind of came down to I was finding that like I had actually like a lot of success in being able to navigate working full time and still running competitively after college. And I felt like I had like a lot of just like advice to offer. That also just being like a nerd for like the physiology of running and just like listening to like a lot of podcasts about like coaches coaching philosophy and reading a lot of books like over like the course of like the 18 or 15 years I've been running. I just felt like I had a lot to offer. And actually, Nick introduced me to Elisabeth in 2021 saying, like, hey, I know you stink at marketing, but you have like a lot to offer. And Elisabeth is great at marketing and needs some help. So Elisabeth told me to get certified and then come talk to her. And I did. And it's been great since then. But yeah, I just really want to help people navigate that balance of, chasing times or chasing their goals, but also navigating life.
And I can't believe how well it's gone and how fast the time has flown.
I said 2 years earlier, but it's been 3.
It's been 3.
Yeah, it's been 3, 4.
Whatever Andrew said is what I said.
Amanda, tell us what inspired you to become a coach, a run coach specifically.
Run coach specifically. Yeah. I think that I've been a run coach now for 5 years, and what inspired me to become a coach is that I wasn't seeing a lot of running professionals in the space who spoke to running for joy. And I felt as though just my philosophy as a fitness professional prior to becoming a run coach is really based on all bodies deserve an experience where they can move without feeling judged or shamed for whatever their goals are. And I wanted to provide that experience as a coach to runners.
I love it. I love it. Jessie, what made you decide to start coaching?
I guess I always self-coached myself for a while, and then I'd make friends training plans for fun, and it seemed to work out. I'm like, well, I should probably officially get certified. And I think COVID kind of helped with that I could do it virtually. I didn't have to travel and go anywhere. So I guess 4 years ago now, I officially got certified. But it wasn't until like 3 years ago. I'm like, okay, let me try. I tried to make my own business, do my own run coaching. But like Andrew had said, like I'm working full time and a parent and all my runs are in the dark. So I can't really market or video anything. So when Elisabeth happened to have an opening and chance to take more coaches, I thought I'd jump on working with her. And from knowing you beforehand, I thought it'd be a good fit. And I like your company and your motto. So
Oh, thank you. You guys don't have to be nice to me, by the way. Like, it's okay. You can for real. No, I'm very glad. No, and I mean, I one of the reasons, and I love having all of you on the coaching team for individual reasons, but I think, Jesse, I am so personally impressed by your ability to handle not only working, but being a mom, being a spouse, being a runner, and also being a run coach. Like, that is some top-notch time management skills. Bravo. All right. Nick, I know you did recently decide to start coaching, so tell us about that.
I did, yeah. I'd say like in 2022, I went after a really big goal and I hit it, or I didn't hit it. And it was really not great for me. I got really burnt out, and working with my own run coach, she just kind of really kept telling me it's all about falling in love with the process. And I wasn't getting it. And then it kind of like finally clicked for me. I mean, it took like 2 years, but it really clicked for me. And I really started realizing what it means to like embrace running as a lifelong kind of practice, I guess, more than just getting fixated on really big goals and kind of like losing yourself in the process. And so when I started really embracing that and feeling like all of, like Amanda kind of said, the joy that comes with running when you kind of embrace that side of it, that side of the process, I really want to share that with other people and help them connect with that as well. It's great to go after big goals, like we should, but if we fall in love with the process along the way, then it means that if we miss those goals, which we will, running is still going to be there for us and like still be a really positive experience. So that's why I, kind of decided recently to get my certification and join the Running Explained team, because I think we all really kind of align with that sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. And Nick, how did you decide to become a coach?
Oh, what a story. Let's see. I always wanted to coach like a high school team, and then my work would never align with leaving at 2:30 to go to practice and be there at 3. So it just never worked out. And so I was with a coach, my first coach, collegiate or post collegiate, and my coach David Roach at the time was just very supportive and like showing me a side of coaching that I didn't think I existed. When I was coached at high school and college level, it was your coach is in charge and this figurehead of that you don't really have a relationship with, you don't really know, and then like having this coach that's like very supportive, like opened my eyes to like what a coach could really be in late 20s 2010s. And then so for me, like his encouragement sort of got me to want to try, and I started coaching some friends, and then I just sort of realized I sort of had this ability to kind of connect with people and like use my empathy and my emotional intelligence to kind of like connect and help them see things in a way, and like help kind of push the narrative of like the numbers don't matter, right? And it's been a lot of what I've worked with, and like I just felt a push to do this because I like connecting with people. I like being a part of their journey. It's very easy for me to feel almost more joy, probably to my own demise, more joy for my athlete's journey than sometimes my own. I've known this has been like a great life for me. I just didn't know the virtual world was a thing until, I was kind of introduced to it, and now I just love it.
And people hear me talk all the time, so I don't want to like take too much time talking to myself, but I feel a little bit weird being that I am also a coach on the Running Explained team. And I feel like I should talk about how I decided to become a run coach too. I think I've said this before, in that I feel like I kind of fell backwards into coaching, because when I started, really falling in love with the sport and learning and reading and becoming educated about, the side of training and running and all the things that I love now, I really wasn't thinking about being able to do that with other people until I think we may have all had this experience. It sounds like I had friends start asking me for training plans and to train them and to help them with their race. And I kept saying, no. Like, I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach. I know all these things, but I'm not a coach, until my best friend Ashley looked at me. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a coach. Like, this is ridiculous. So I realized at that moment on, what I was doing was I was able to help people do things that they wanted to do and make those things happen for them. And with running, so much of what it is I think being able to do things or become a version of ourselves that didn't exist before. And I think there's something really so magical about that, whether it is something that has to do with the time that you're trying to run or just a connection you're trying to create with your body. So that really for me is when I really understood the power of coaching and realized it was something that I wanted to help people with. Fun stuff. All
Love
right.
that.
So we are going to dive into some, I'd say, myths and misconceptions about run coaching. And I actually also have like a controversial question that I want to ask you guys later, but I don't want to start with that. So I think one of the big things, and as coaches, I think it's easy for us to sit here and say, like, coaching's amazing. Everybody needs coaching. How do people not understand the power of coaching? Being very understanding that, hey, look, not everybody wants to or would probably be interested in working with a coach. That's fine. But there are a lot of people out there, I think, who would want to and would benefit and would enjoy it. But we have some myths and misconceptions about run coaching. So I would love to hear some of the things that you guys have heard or have overheard people get wrong about run coaching or what it looks like to work with a run coach. And you can just start talking and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest myths I think athletes kind of get is, and coaches do it too, is like guaranteeing results, right? Like hiring a coach, if a coach is telling you they can guarantee you a time running far away, that's not a thing. And if athletes hiring a coach because they feel like I'm going to invest my money and I'm going to guarantee this result, they're also wrong, right? Neither side can guarantee anything, right? And so at the end of the day, like I think what people could really understand more about coaching is it's this hero's journey, right? Like you're transforming yourself through running, through coaching, through working with someone. You are growing, and it's not just the numbers on your watch. It's not some random clock on some street in some town that's changing. You are changing, right? And so working with someone is about the relationship you're making and how you are growing, adapting, handling the moments of life together and conquering it, right? And so I wish more people would look back on their journey, not to be like, I worked with a coach and I took 47 minutes and 18 seconds off. Yeah, you did, but like what changed about you, right? Like look at this journey as an investment in yourself, not just in some number.
I think that leads into also that you don't need to have a race on the calendar in order to benefit from hiring a coach. Speaking to what Coach Nick just shared, to be an active participant in making running a part of your life, you don't need to always have something you're shooting for to just want to have something to enrich your life even more. So I just wanted to add maybe that it's a separate thing, but it feeds into what Coach Nick was saying about finishing times and this pressure that we put on ourselves. And that's not really what the coach athlete relationship is about.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of athletes don't realize that it's a two-way relationship. And what I mean by that is that like we're open to feedback. A lot of athletes are like, okay, like this is what they programmed for the week. This is exactly what I have to do. And it's like, well, if you don't like enjoy doing this kind of workout, like we don't know unless you say something. So like I kind of always tell my athlete that like they're the driver and I'm the co-pilot. Like I'll help them get to where they want to go, but they're the one that kind of has to know like, you know, where they want to get to or like generally like what works for them.
I think building off of that, it is very much like more than just a training plan. That was maybe like my biggest misconception when I first hired a coach. I thought, oh, I'm just getting like this scientific like training plan and someone to personalize it to my needs. Cool. That's what I expected. What I didn't expect was to get this like incredible collaborative relationship. Kind of like what Coach Andrew just said, like it is very much a two-way street. Like whatever you kind of put into it as an athlete, not just doing the runs, but communication, feedback, things like that. It really is a collaborative relationship to help you like get closer to your goals, not just me writing you a training plan based on science. So, yeah.
And with it, I think just the additional support too. I mean, I guess I've always been very self-motivated. Like you just give me something, I'll do it. But just having the fact that they're checking in and just seeing how your life is going along with running. Someone who's in your court and can help you plan like race strategy as well. If you do have a race on the calendar, just knowing someone's like on your team as you're doing this, and so make it fun as well.
How many of you have worked with an athlete or a prospective athlete or heard somebody talk about working with a coach and say something to the effect of, I'm not fast enough to hire a coach, or I don't think a coach would be interested in helping me achieve my goal of trying to finish in under 6 hours in my first marathon? Show of hands. Who has heard this? Everybody's hand just went up. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear and see about working with a coach is that you have to, one, that like we're only interested in working with really fast clients or like a certain type of client or a certain type of person who has, different goals. And I mean, that's not true. But also that somehow in order for it to be worth it, you need to have some sort of impressive, fast goal or pedigree. Because I can tell you almost every single runner I work with is very much what we would consider a very normal kind of middle of the pack runner. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's where most of us are. But that's who mostly I'm coaching. I'm not coaching the people who are winning the races. And I know most of the other run coaches, you guys, most of our athletes are that very normal runner. So I want to hear from you guys, experience things that you've heard. Think like, have you talked to anybody about this? What do you say when you get asked this question?
I often sometimes get athletes that say they feel like they need to prove that they're worthy of like being coached in general, like through like workout splits and mileage and times. And I'm kind of like, hey, it's not like I'll coach you no matter how fast you are, or if you're a walk jogger. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, what matters is like that you're enjoying, like fulfilled by the programming and the relationship. And that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I get people, I don't share my personal results a ton on social media, but sometimes when people know it, they're like, oh, you were so fast, you wouldn't want to coach me. And, to that effect, I always kind of respond the same, which is like everyone, I was a beginner at some point too, right? Like everyone doesn't know something about running. And so like my joy is helping people learn and the experiences I've been through, right? And to learn the things I've known and to work through that stuff, because I wish when I started, I had someone in my corner to be like, oh, hey, just do that. Or, hey, we don't do that. Or, no, that's a really bad idea to run, 18 miles for your first run of the week when you haven't run 3 weeks. Like little things like that where you're just in the moment, you're like, I really just wish I had this like supportive person. I'm like, we all just need that. And sometimes in reality, it's like, you just need someone to tell you do less, right? And so left to my own, I'm just going to run and run and run and run. And then I'm going to be like, why am I hurt? I don't understand. So, to people, it doesn't matter what your time is. It's really just about you're creating a relationship with someone and it's fun to be part of their journey.
Yeah, I am a very non-pace centric coach. I will say right away, I'm always like, I don't care what your paces are. Honestly, I think every pace deserves to be celebrated. So you can run any pace and you're worthy of, getting this relationship out of it for sure.
I think it's a very similar line that I hear also when people just start their relationship with fitness in general. It's like, well, first I have to lose weight, or first I have to eat healthier. First whatever they have in their mind that is a prerequisite for being a part of the experience. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so I just echo everything that has already been said by the coaches on call, that if you want to run, you are a runner and you are worthy of having someone in your corner to help guide you.
I think it's tough because, and we all know this, right? There are so many ways in which runners, we are really hard on ourselves. We tend to come down on ourselves and we expect a lot from ourselves. And so it's easy to get caught up in this trap of, I might not feel worthy of a coach. But something else that I want to go back to what Andrew was saying about your, collaboration comment that you are the co-pilot and they're in the driver's seat. Because that's another misconception, I think, too, that when you start working with a coach, they're going to ask you to do all these really fancy, complicated, hard things, and you need to just do them. And it's always interesting to me when I ask a client, like, so what do you like to do? What type of workouts do you like to do? Do you have other activities that you like to do? And they're like, well, I'll do whatever you think I should do. And that's not what I asked. I asked, what do you like to do? Because that's what I care about. How do you guys go about, really helping runners who I totally understand they want to get to a certain place in their running, so they are willing to come in and just say, tell me what to do and I will do it. But how do you kind of broach the subject, draw that runner out, and really get them to be more than just tell me what to do and I'll do it, but start thinking about their likes and dislikes, their strengths and their weaknesses, to have that conversation, to include their preferences?
I always empower the athlete. It starts with empowerment, right? Because a lot of athletes come in and they feel, because coaching used to be this way, there's this dynamic of coach on top and athlete listens on the bottom, and that's how this never, and you just help me to get to my goals. And so for me, from the very beginning, it's how do I make this as collaborative as possible? How do I make this feel like they're just as much in the driver's seat? And so, I always talk through my athletes and tell them the best success we're both going to have in this journey is the more you communicate, right? And communicate not just my run felt good, but how does this ton of run feel? How does this week? How does this mileage feel? Because most will be like, oh, I just need to run more miles because my friends are. But can you handle that? What days off do you need? I always empower them to help me drive their week to make it look the way they need it to be. I have nurses who will put on the calendar the days they're in the hospital and will always take those days off. There's no questions asked. It's just simple that. But to them, they're like, I might have to run that day because because I'm not really going to ask for that off. But as much as I can help them feel a part and invested in their training plan, the more success they're going to have.
For me, I usually, with newer athletes, it happens after the first race. If there's a race on the calendar, when we debrief, I always ask what worked during this cycle, or up through to this point, and what didn't work. And then during the race, did you notice anything that you wish we had done? I wish we had done more strides because I didn't have a kick, or I wish I'd done more tempo runs because I felt really tired early. So trying to get it out of them that way is initially a start. And also part of it's also just building trust that some athletes think that they're going to hurt our feelings, or that we're going to fire them if they make a suggestion or a tweak, and just kind of continually reminding them hey, it's okay to provide feedback, we can tweak things and make it work. But some of it's just a constant reminder, and just also letting them know that we're not cutting them from our roster because they have a different idea.
Yeah.
I think that an athlete's role is to over communicate, and our role is to set professional boundaries around that. But I say that what Andrew's sharing is how I operate. That communication is key, so there's no TMI with me, and I'm the one who kind of sifts through what they're saying and says, so what you're saying is you need this in order to feel confident at this, whatever the thises are. And that's how I grow as a coach, and that's how I evolve as a coach. But it's also how there's more trust amongst both of us in their journey.
I echo the sentiment that there is no TMI. I just recently had an athlete, she was like, I'm not really sure, how much to share. I was like, you share, whatever you're comfortable with, because there's really no TMI. Something that I've been doing recently is implementing a lot more, prompts for them to want to communicate with me more. So we do fueling logs in Final Surge, and we do kind of a weekly recap. It's up to them how much they want to share, but I've started to kind of prompt them in Final Surge, you know what I mean? And have it all kind of tie into the weekly training that was programmed. So then I can go ahead, kind of like Amanda said, and sift through everything and make connections and follow up that way too.
Yeah, I feel for me, those weekly check-ins are help if they feel filling them out. But yeah, I can make adjustments for them and however their schedule works, like maybe Tuesdays they can only do a 40-minute run, and how we can adjust for that. And like hearing them out, I think they want to be heard and know the schedule isn't going to be a conflict and they can still get runs in.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think Nick said this before. A lot of what we do is not necessarily asking, hey, you need to do all these things, but hey, we need to do these types of things and only this much of it, because there is such a thing as too much. And I think we all, us too, right? We get it because we know what it's like to just go, just more running, just more all the things, and then we get a little bit burned out. And that's what a coach can help pull back on and say, hey, hold on, you've done enough. And we've done enough of the things. You don't have to do things that you hate either, unless it's strength training, and then you have to do it anyways. I want to ask a question, a controversial question, perhaps. I want to know what you guys think of run coaching certifications. And so, yeah, okay, I'm already getting some nonverbal feedback from my guests. So I'll tell you my experience when I first, when I started this business and went from I'm just sharing information to I am now working with people in a coaching capacity. It was really important to me to feel like I had some sort of credential or some sort of thing that, I wasn't just some random person, especially since I do not have a degree in exercise science. And so I went and overachieved a little bit, and I did 3 run coaching certifications. And I'm very, very glad that I did them. I did the RRCA, I did USETF level 1. I got most of the way through RRCA level 2. And then I didn't want to keep paying them money. And then I also did the US go on. But here's the thing. I don't meant to be like, oh, just go to certifications. Because they're open book, multiple choice tests. Like, it's not hard to become a run coach. But here's the thing. There was very little that I learned in those certifications that I had not already learned from reading books or from working with people up until that point. And I didn't know everything. I'm learning new things every day. That's not the point. But I want to know, knowing what you know now, where do you think the run coach certification falls in what it means to be a run coach? And is this something, is there a better way? Is there a different way we should be doing this? Who has thoughts?
The bar is so low. Mm-hmm. And the bar has only gotten further into the sewer by ways of social media and maintaining a certain aesthetic, having a certain finishing time, being creative in your 28-second reel as a runner with privilege does not qualify you to be a professional in this space. And unfortunately, what has happened is all of those things that I just mentioned, those have become the qualifiers to then get the run coaching certification to legitimize what I just said. And that's, in my opinion, this is a G-rated podcast, unlike Between Two Coaches, but I will say it's A backwards, A $$ backwards. And so that's my brief but spectacular take on where it currently stands and wish it didn't.
I'd say, when I took my certifications, I did it for various reasons. A UASTF, I keep my certification up because I'm part of their coaches group, because I just happen to have an athlete who runs at that level. So I keep that up for only those reasons. I don't. UASTF's more centered around, do you want to be a high school track and field coach, than it is really about what we do. Run RRCA helps with that, but it's really just, again, it's I don't think it's necessary, but I also feel like, because what Amanda's saying, it shows that you're willing to care enough to learn for your athletes. Yeah. And that makes a big difference. So being able to tell people you're certified means I'm serious about this, because it's not really, as we alluded to, not super hard to get a certification. So if you just want to be an influencer and just monetize, and you can't take the, 4 weeks to 2 weeks to take the class and the 1 week to suffer through the test, not suffer, but do it, then are you really serious about this and your $500 training templates that you're stealing from your previous coach? So, I would say, and I would really say, like, I took the Coaches Collective with Dr. Laura Pence, and I really liked that because I don't have that degree in human like connection and understanding a human being, right? And because so much of coaching is that you can know that stuff, you can learn that stuff, but like that's being a coach too. It's not just about the numbers in the log, right? So like if you want to be a better coach, like explore not just how to type the perfect training plan, because that doesn't exist. Like no one's stealing from some professional coach to give it to our athletes. There's no such thing as the perfect plan. We tailor it to what them is to our particular athlete, and then we adapt it literally 5 seconds later because something's changed. So none of that exists. But connecting with someone, understanding them, and helping them work through grief and other things like that, like that's the stuff you could learn. So you really want to be a coach. It's like learn how to, almost be a therapist.
I want to clarify something. I don't mean to come across sounding like a dick, be like, I didn't learn a single thing. I really enjoyed taking the certifications. It was a very valuable process. I do recommend them. I'm just saying, I think when we think about being a run coach, this kind of ties into what a misconception is. It's that you can learn everything you need to know about being a run coach in one single weekend. And it really is a jumping off point. And by that, I mean that there's so much that you can learn outside of those courses that I think why I really enjoy having you guys, but I think for a lot of people, when we in our running community talk about being a run coach, a lot of people do get the impression that it begins and ends with a weekend certification. And it's so much more than that, as we all know.
Yeah, I think the certification does provide some credentialing validity. But one thing that I like take in my coaching is like I pull from like a bunch of different books and things that I've like learned over the last couple of years. It's not just like this is the philosophy. We do Jack Daniels periodization and that's it. Like you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you kind of build it over time. The certifications were good to like, get some letters behind your name, show that you have taken a test, but in terms of like developing actual philosophy, I think it's like for me, it was personally a good reinforcement of things that I had learned, but it's not like that's where I learned how to do run coaching.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good like base, and yeah, like Andrew said, like kind of solidified that I'm not way off course on what I was thinking. But yeah, I've based some of my training on other books, some experience that I've had, and just sharing insight on things. So like most of us said, the course isn't the end all be all. Have all the information to give us the answers on how to make the training plans and work with athletes. But yeah, I feel like experience helps, and just reading up and keep learning too with it.
A good jumping off point. So, all right, what are everybody's favorite additional coaching resources? What's in the stack coaching books next to your computers?
I just read Mark Coogan's book, who coaches the New Balance Elite women mostly. And he wrote, it was a really good book. It had training schedules for everything from like the 800 through the marathon for all different ability levels. But it was also like talking about the mental side of things. And what else? He talked a lot about like when he like lets them really rip it at practice, but also just like the 80-20 rule of like, 80% effort. And that was a really good one. And he's like a little old school. Like he like raced a lot in like the 80s and like early 90s, I believe. So it was like a little bit of like a throwback from like today's like hot like buzzwords of like double threshold and things like that. It was like very old school, but that was like a really good one. And I always like look back at Jack Daniels as just like a classic. Back to basics. Keep it simple.
Is that a newer book?
Yeah, I think it just came out in the last year.
I'll have to read it.
It's definitely awesome. Like in the last year, maybe 2. But it was really
I love seeing what other coaches program. It's so fascinating. And it's really, I mean, rarely is it like, oh, I'm going to steal this, or, oh, that's so much better than mine. It's like, that's just so interesting for a peek inside what somebody else has done.
Yeah.
I just go to the Happy Runner from the Roaches. That's always my favorite book that I'll pull from when I need just to get a little bit of everything.
I know you guys have books. What are they?
I have like the Hanson's ones that I've read through, for example, and like the Run Less, Run Faster. Just as like background, I've just pulled from some books and things.
one of my quick references is Steve Magnus's The Science of Running.
Mhm.
And then if you want to just destroy, like feel like you're going back to college, The Lore of Running.
I do have that one.
Yeah, that one's a behemoth. But it's fun and interesting. So thinking about, what I think is really cool about coaching, and everybody here, like who's currently working with a coach? Who of you is currently being run coached by somebody else? One, two, who of you has been run coached by somebody else in the past, even if you aren't right now? Andrew, you've never been coached?
I mean, I should take that. I was in high school and college, but like
Okay, that
like
technically
not since
counts.
then. I haven't like hired like a private coach before.
That counts, I
Yeah.
think, for my point. In that, one of the coolest things about being a coach is that we are also kind of an amalgamation of the coaches that we had and the coaches who were an influence on us, and whether that was positive or not so positive. I want to hear about the coach, if you have a moment, a coach or coaches who changed things for you because of their coaching, and if you've carried any of what they do into your coaching today.
My college coach, my high school coach was a very good coach. He was very technical, but that was it. Like we showed up at 2:30, we left at 5:30. We all got a lot faster, but like that was kind of it. And then when I went to college, my college coach, we'd weekly meet individual one-on-one meetings, and we talked about everything but running. It was class, social, and it was really helpful, especially my freshman year. Like all these life changes, not just academics, but like a new training program, new teammates, new food, like all these different things. And it just like kind of like that's when the light bulb went off that like, oh, there's like a lot more to this than just like lacing up the shoes and like getting out the door. It's like all these other things of like, how late are you studying? When are you going to bed? Like, what's your social life? Like, are you homesick? Especially like freshman year. And that's something like I still like, obviously, like we've talked about this a little bit earlier, but like running is just like one part of the puzzle. Like, you've got job, potential partners, whatever it is that like can affect your running, and fitting running into that is really important. And it's important for coaches to understand what's going on outside of just your training.
Definitely.
My biggest coaching influence was probably in my youth, actually, and not really related to running. I had a lot of not great soccer coaches growing up, and then I had a really great soccer coach, and I felt like it was in high school. It was probably like my first time that I ever felt like someone saw me as like more than an athlete. Because, in high school, you like go to school and then you do your extracurriculars and then you go home. And so your extracurriculars are very focused. I feel like you're there to play soccer and then you go home. And he really, I feel like, made me feel like I am also a person who is complex, and this activity adds a lot to my life, and it's only one part of the whole. And then when I ran cross country my senior year of high school, I had a similar coaching experience, which I was really lucky to have. And I had a coach who like really invested in me all the way through college. And I went to design school for college, and it was very demanding. And so I didn't really run. I didn't, run cross country or anything like that. But she, we met up like once a quarter and like just chatted about life and running and things like that. And that was probably one of my biggest coaching influences, were experiences like that, where I felt like I was seen as a person who likes to do this athletic activity and not just someone who's putting out results or scoring goals or running fast times for the team to place, you know what I mean, at a state meet or something like that.
I didn't run in school, but I did ski. I skied cross country. And the coach who was really the most influential coach that I've ever had was my cross country ski coach. And I was like I was a mediocre skier. Like I was fine, nothing special. And but we had some real stars on the team. And so I always thought, I had a really good relationship with my coach, who was also my math teacher. But I was very much like, I'm not, I don't really contribute to the team. Like I'm there, but I'm not, the one who's going to be the make or break. And I remember it was I think my junior year of high school, she started putting me into events that I was like, I can't do that. Like you need to pick somebody who's faster. Like I'm not the right choice. And she said, I wouldn't choose you if I didn't think you could do it. And it wasn't about whether or not I could do it. It was about that she thought that I could. And like that vote of confidence, I think was enough to really, for the first time, for me to see, wow, like this perception that I have about my own abilities might be wrong. If somebody else thinks I can do it, what else am I not seeing? And so that was really the first time that I realized, having a coach who's there is like, I know it's scary and I know you think you can't do this, but I think you can. And I really think you can do it if you try. And of course, it's not about, like I said, doing it all the time, but that really has stuck with me from then until today.
Yeah, I had a coach in high school who was very like invested. Like he was when I learned what like running in a group means. Like he would do all our runs with us because he was just fresh out of college. So we'd do all the group chatting and all that stuff that I learned about like, hey, this is running and this is fun. And like he'd be the coach who would like scream at me in races and like get up there and be able to like get to 5 different spots on a 5K race because he was so fast. And then I got a coach in college who was the quiet, the one who knew what was going on, but just very few words. And so, I took that in and like I learned from that and how that helped us. And some people it didn't help, but like how that did make a difference in different ways, right? And then when I got my coach post collegiately, like just understanding how to invest in people right now, because like as adults, like that relationship can be a little different than in college and high school, but like how much it means, right? How much it means to like help you feel seen from your coach, to help your coach like help you believe in yourself, right? Because that's ultimately what we're doing. At the end of the day, an athlete's going to run to what they believe they can do. And so when your coach is invested and can help you kind of see through the muck and like that stuff. And so like a lot of what I've taken from each coach in my life is like little bits and pieces because they've influenced me on like how to really be there and care passionately and like be with someone, be on runs with them, be at their races, and then like how to be very quiet and spoken but still make a difference, and then how to like really be invested in someone at an emotional level and how much that really makes a difference.
One thing I wanted to add was I played roller hockey growing up, and my dad was my coach. And I remember his attention to like just every single person on the team. And like the team's like pretty big. Like, they're like whatever, 12 or 15 kids at a time. And the way that like he made sure that like every person like in practice like got the amount of reps and like got equal playing time and all these things. And he like truly invested in every single person is something that I still think about when I'm programming to make sure that like each athlete gets the amount of attention that they deserve, which is a lot.
So I want to talk about that. I think this is another area where, as we're, we don't have unlimited time, and I know I'd be mindful of everybody's schedules. But thinking about I think a lot of people don't know what it looks like to work with a coach. They think like, oh, I'm just going to like get a training plan and then what? Like we have a phone call. So obviously there are different, types of coaching, different types of communication and different levels of how much you talk to your coach. But, throw out what a week, what a week with one of your athletes looks like. When are you programming? What are you checking? When would you reach out? When do you guys like what does that look like? An example.
I will start as somebody who has to tuck myself in shortly. In my week, I generally program and communicate somewhere between Wednesday and Thursday. Those are my 2 days that I have the time and the space to communicate with my athletes. It's everyone has a different preference in terms of that communication, and I kind of provide the guidelines. So I have some runners who we speak via Final Surge message, which is the platform that we use at Running Explain to build out our programming. Some of my runners prefer just like one-off emails, and so we communicate in that way. And I have a few who it's via texting. I've kind of shied away from that a bit later in my career, but everyone's a little different, and that's what makes it so unique to the person we are coaching. I think that what's important is that the bottom line is that programming and a training plan is in pencil, and that we provide the framework as coaches. But the only way it's successful is if it is flexible. So the framework is not rigid. It's completely up to, it's evolving week to week, depending on every factor that one can imagine. How well the athlete has slept, how well they've fueled, have they been stressed due to a career change, a major life event, a move, a separation of the spouse, a child being born, we as coaches hear it all because the people we coach are humans. And so it should be the training plan is ever evolving because we as humans are ever evolving. So that's my 9-10 p.m. Eastern time ramble. So I'm gonna put myself off and say goodnight. And if you're waking up with us, good morning. And
Good night, Amanda. Sleep well. Keeping up past your bedtime.
Yeah, to kind of build off of that, I think one misconception is that a lot of athletes, like they'll come to us with a goal race and they think that we lay out this 12 or 14 or 16, 20-week plan and that's like it. And I honestly so I program once every week to 2 weeks, usually at least 10 days in advance. And the reason why I do that is because I want to know what they did the week before. So like I don't have like this 20-week side sheet. Like I need to see that you can run 15 miles a week pretty comfortably, maybe a couple times before we bump up to 20, or you can do this run before we can do the next run. I generally do programming on Wednesdays as well for the following week. That also gives athletes times to look in Final Surge and see, maybe say like, oh, hey, like I need to switch these days or alter these couple of things. What do you think? Whether it's about an effort on a workout or a down week or if they have an upcoming physical therapy appointment, whatever it is. But that way, like they're hearing from me once a week and it's like about what's upcoming and what just happened. Some athletes respond. Some athletes you don't hear from. Some just respond with a text and that's all good. But that way they have something in writing from me every week.
I definitely want to hear from the rest of you who may want to chime in with this, but I think, Andrew, between what you said and what Amanda said is that, we being very adaptive to what our athletes respond to, like everybody's different. Not everybody wants to text back and forth all the time. Some people will just reach out when they need something. Thank you, which is totally fine. We're here for that. And I think that's one of the really cool things is that, it doesn't always have to look a certain way where it's like, okay, if your friend's being coached by somebody and they're getting a specific type of communication style, like that doesn't necessarily have to be what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For my athletes, they all do 100 miles a week. We do the Norwegian method. All our runs are zone 2 only. I'm kidding. But, the way, how my week works is sort of, I program out similar, like 3 weeks at a time. That's the most I'll do because if I ever do 4, the second I put 4 weeks out, something happens the first day and then I have to adapt 4 weeks of training. So 3 weeks at a time is usually an ample amount. That's all you really need. You're building out a block. I do down weeks every 4th week. So we're working sort of around that. And then, on top of that, it's like everyone's saying, we communicate differently, but it's trying to extract information from athletes, right? And so I've worked with people for 5 years and I can tell when they do a workout and they write keywords in their response, I'm like, okay, I think they might be spiraling. Let's send them a message or let's reach out or let's do a call or let's just nip this in the bud right away because I know what's happening, right? Because we're sort of so in tune. And, I've done that because it's getting information in the ways you can from your athletes. Some communicate less. Some will tell you literally everything that's going on at all times. But whatever information is shared, you're gleaning insight into them and trying to learn. And one of the things I added, in the last year and a half is a couple things. I added a weekly snapshot I put in every Sunday to kind of glean information from people and just quick answers like how was your stress for the week, like 1 to 10, like things like that, where like it's not going to take them a lot of time and it can be as little as they want to respond. Or some of them write paragraphs. I have a WhatsApp community I set up for my athletes, and in there I glean information too, because sometimes they're more willing to share with everyone else about runs or life or things. So, I just put places and, ways for them to communicate in place, and then just sort of use the best I can to get information from them about things, and knowing that some won't respond for a week, and then we'll put a lot in, and some will every day. So, you learn your athletes and you sort of figure out what works.
Yeah, very similar to Nick. I like my athletes to be able to see like a week and a half or 2 weeks, like kind of see what's coming, just have a little bit of foresight. Is that a word? So that we can, really adapt and move things around and whatnot. And I program similarly 3-week build, kind of 4-week cutback. But also, my favorite thing to say, which I know all of you will resonate with this, is just it depends. Like a lot of the times they'll be like, "Can we do this? What about this? What about this?" It depends, and every athlete is going to be different. I think that's like the biggest thing about, not the biggest, but one of the biggest things about one-on-one coaching is just that, like, two athletes, totally different communication styles, perhaps totally different programming. And that's like one of the bigger things about hiring a coach, is that they're able to kind of see two totally different people and take the science behind whatever certification they have and apply it to two totally different people, perhaps in two totally different seasons of their life and whatnot.
Yeah, with that, I also like to build out at least 2 weeks at a time. I have had one athlete ask for 3 weeks, so we do work on just, I like seeing ahead of time too, and forward planning. So yeah, it depends on the athlete and their needs. And if they do have a race, I kind of like the future plan, like where they potentially could be, but not necessarily build it all out, because obviously we get sick, especially this winter season. And Midwest right now, things are icing over, snow. Got to adapt quickly with things. But yeah, I take their feedbacks. I usually try to have like a weekly check-in if they feel like filling it out, just with how they're feeling and everything. And usually like my Sunday evenings, I kind of like to go reflect on their last week and make comments on, like, say they had a speed workout or a long run. I want to like check in and kind of like look over their training, and if they did leave comments, respond to them and answer what they mentioned. Because yeah, there are some athletes who just like to tell me everything, what their feeling was for the day, not just in their running. Or yeah, some don't say anything, so I want to like check and like just make sure they're being heard, or like how things are feeling. But yeah, every athlete's different with how they want to communicate, so it's just learning and getting to know them too with that.
Yeah. And I think when we say feedback, right? So that means either, giving feedback on a specific run that an athlete has recorded, and, looking what they've done, maybe at any comments or additional information they provided, and kind of responding to that, or even reaching out, not like via text or an email, and like just checking in, like giving feedback in general, or just, responding, or like, and, looking ahead for what's coming down the pike. So, if anybody's wondering, well, what will a coach, like, what does that look like? What does a coach tell me? Like, that's what it is. And it could be anything from just, kind of, excited, like, yes, you're doing a really great job, to something that's super detailed and technical, to something that's, more emotionally supportive. It just really depends on what it is that we're responding to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bigger picture one is huge. I think I didn't really fully understand the bigger picture until I started coaching. And then I realized, oh, now I see it. Now I get the 30,000 foot view. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I really want everybody to get to know you guys as well, or even better, maybe, than I know you now as coaches. So if for those of you, if you want to share where, if you if you're on Instagram or want people to follow you, I think almost all of you are taking on new clients right now. So if people are interested in working with, I know Nick, you're not. Mick, you are. Jesse, you have a little bit of room. Andrew, you have a couple spots. Amanda has a couple spots. So yeah, where can people follow and find more about you, other than the Meet the Coaches page on runningexplained.com?
I'm on Instagram. My handle is just my name, Andrew Cantor, all lowercase, no spaces or anything like that.
I'm also on Instagram at Running with Roses.
I'm also on Instagram. It's marathon.mick.
I'm on Instagram at Klostava, my last name. Also, you can check out my podcast, Between Two Coaches, with also Amanda as a part of it. And we're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And I don't do TikTok, but I have a TikTok. I made one like a week ago. So
I have a TikTok. That has claimed the @RunningExplained handle, but now I can't remember what email that is associated with. And I've tried all of the email addresses that I have, and I still can't get it. So
Oh, that's the
that's why I'm
worst.
not on TikTok. I can't figure out how to log in. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope that we were able to enlighten some people about run coaching and get to know you a little bit more. And yeah, I will see you guys all next week at our Coaches Happy Hour. But I'll see all of my listeners our following week, the next week episode. Stay tuned. It will be on YouTube, just like all the new episodes are these days. Thank you for listening. If you do like the show, I'd very much appreciate you leaving a 5-star review. If you don't like the show, I'd very much appreciate you telling me that in private. So I will see you guys next time.